But I'm here to talk about aid tech today, to tell you how we're empowering the world with transparency. We're using blockchain to do it. But before I do it, let me tell you something shocking. In the world today, $4.4 trillion is lost every year because of fraud, corruption, and lack of transparency. And it's something that governments, the NGOs, the charities have never been able to solve. But I'm delighted to say that right here in Dublin today with Aid Tech, the world's #1 blockchain startup, we are solving it. Why are we doing it? Well, because my good buddy, my co-founder Joe, the guy with the really big quads, he ran a marathon back in 2009 called the Marathon des Sables. He ran 151 miles through the Moroccan desert. In the process, he raised $122,000, if you can believe it. And he wasn't able to tell the donors where the money was going, which is why at the end of the presentation today, I'm going to show you an example of a real-life blockchain application developed, again, by Aid Tech, taking the world by storm, called Trace Donate, which will show you how you can make traceable donations and you can fix this problem. But here you see Gabrielle Pictet from the Red Cross in Geneva. Gabrielle is creating and issuing digital identities on our platform. And in a groundbreaking project in 2015, we used digital identity to enable aid to be sent to Syrian refugees in a refugee camp over the blockchain to obtain products in a completely traceable manner. That was our response to the money going missing in the desert, and that's what we've been doing ever since. But we believe that digital identity, and specifically decentralized digital identity, which I'll talk a little bit more about very shortly, is the key to enabling inclusion. And back to what Anne mentioned, that is the mission of Aid Tech. But the mission is to bring social and financial inclusion to the undocumented and the underserved using blockchain technology, combining that then with digital identity. Why are we the company to do it? Well, a French woman up there, not quite as elegant as Anne O'D, next to a guy who used to be the president of the World Bank called Jim Wolfensohn, and a couple of small companies, one called Citi, one called MasterCard, said that Aid Tech are the #1 company in the world using technology to fight corruption. We won that award back in 2017. We got a 100K check on the night. So at the time we were, how will I put it in, like any startup, a little bit on the ropes. So that came very timely. But look, that opened up a huge amount of opportunity for us. And we want to do the same then with people who hold our identity. And we're very much in alignment then with the Sustainable Development Goals. You probably heard a lot about them during the talk or the duration of the talk, but 17 goals backed by 193 countries formulated by the UN. Big, lofty, ambitious goals, which we adhere to. And in case you aren't familiar with them, it's basically a universal call to action to end poverty, to fight inequalities and injustice, and to tackle climate change. Not saying we're going to do all of them today, we might do, but we're going to attack it anyway, give it our best, give it the best shot, and we believe that when you give people a digital identity, you can go a long way to doing this. But more importantly, there's a lot of hype, a lot of crap, if I'm being frank about it, in the blockchain space. I want to give you some real, concrete, tangible, and practical applications of how Aid Tech are tackling these problems around the world. But we truly believe then that blockchain can be used to impact and accelerate and bind together all of these sustainable development goals. And why is it important? And if I zone in on one of them for the moment, if you look at goal 16, there's a specific target within that called 16.9, and that is to provide a legal identity to everybody in the world by the year 2030 at birth. I'm going to talk about a baby that was born on the blockchain in Tanzania on our technology very shortly, but we believe that if you give people an identity, you're including them, and we believe that digital identity should match physical identity. You've got a physical self, you were born, you're here, you exist today. Why not have the same thing in the digital world, and you completely own that? Why is it a big problem? Well, 2.4 billion people today, they lack an identity, and that means then that they're excluded from things like remittances, from welfare, from aid, from healthcare, from donations. Owning their data is a big problem that we're solving for, and healthcare. We can unlock all of these. How we do it is we take real-world entitlements, think of blockchain as a funnel, we create a digital asset, and we move them around in a really completely transparent manner using blockchain technology. And digital identity is the key thing that we're doing. And more importantly then is the idea of a self-sovereign identity. So go back to what I mentioned a few moments ago. If you think about it, when you're born, you've got a physical self, you've got your own identity, you've got your own hair color, you've got your eyes, you've got your date of birth, the place that you were born. So we believe that when you're born, you may not have the capability to do this as a young baby, but eventually you can claim your own self-sovereign identity, much like you do when you get a birth cert. We can digitize this, and that can be your identity on the internet. What it is then, it's basically an ideology to reclaim human dignity and authority in the digital world, and it's an emerging architecture of technology designed to enable that movement. That's a good definition that came from the World Wide Web Consortium. Back to the UN, probably not the quickest moving organization in the world, but at the same time they come up with some really good ideas. And with self-sovereign identity, the premise really is that you should control your identity in regards to your relationships and the interactions with other people, organizations, and different things around the web. So we believe it's going to be fundamentally a game changer. Just this week, a lot of the big companies that I will speak about, who were part of the problem, I think are copping onto this. But if you take what happens right now, typically, conventional identities issued and managed by central authorities. A number of reasons that happened. We could spend days talking about this. But typically a government, a corporate, people on the far right there, the big corporations, they will have information about your identity. They sometimes issue your identity. It can oftentimes be associated with an email, with a phone number. So if you think about it, your email address, if that's an identifier for you, you don't really own that email address. That can be taken away from you at any second. Anybody, for example, who's ever gone abroad, you've taken your mobile with you, you've come back, you've gone away for a couple of years, you wanted to get your number back, it can be gone. So you don't control that identity. So we fundamentally think that you should be able to control that, and we do it then with something that looks like this. This is as technical as I will get, but a decentralized identifier, if you look at that link at the very top, that DID example, that, in our opinion, is the future. That is what your identity on the internet is going to look like. And if you look at it here, and if you contrast the diagram that I'm showing, at the very bottom, we've got a couple of layers. At the bottom, we've got blockchain. Above that, we've got decentralized identifier. So basically, you as the holder are in the middle of this ecosystem. You're not being served up data by these big people. If you think about the bigger companies, you're not just a product, in my opinion. I think you're the fuel that their engine runs on, and they burn you up. Whereas with this, all of that control is taken away from them, and it's put back into the hands of the individual people. So that's it. Some practical examples, what we've done. We've delivered aid in Lebanon with the Red Cross. That is in line with target 16.9. We found a way then to work with the United Nations Development Program in Serbia. We took remittances. We enabled people to, what was money that flowed across a border, that typically there was no data on where it ended up going. We were able to architect a solution that's scaling really well now, that we're enabling people to obtain healthcare, to pay for their to get welfare, to obtain groceries, using remittances, but more importantly then, they're doing that through an identity that they own. The target there was to bring the cost of remittances down to below 3% by the year 2030. That's something that we wanted to do. And also then we've got a product in the market now, we call it Trace Donate. And the beauty of this means that it enables donations to be sent completely transparently over the blockchain. Right now, the Red Cross here in Dublin are running a program with the Red Cross in India. We're digitizing TB kits, we're sending them over borders, and we're enabling people then to obtain the TB kits, and you as a donor get an alert to tell you where your donation was spent, by whom, for what, how much. But the by whom part is important. That only happens if that person gives you permission. So take Michelle, a donor. She can make a donation to a group, to an appeal, to an individual. One of the individuals that she could have made a donation to was the first baby born in the blockchain, in line with SDG number 3. That happened in Tanzania a year ago with our technology. If you look up Twitter, you can see an image of the baby. I couldn't publish it here today, but look at Farm Access. There's a really cute little baby called Abdallah who was born with an aid tech identity. We got featured by Forbes, by people like Engadget. First baby born in the blockchain, good headline. But that baby is linked to a mother who has an identity. This was what we did in the clinic. We gave the mothers an identity. It was linked to a QR code. They were using blockchain technology without even knowing it. But what it means is that for the donor, for the organization, and for the recipient, there's a completely traceable flow of events from the very start to the very finish. But every individual there, including the mother and the baby on the far right-hand side, they control their identity. And what it means is you get something like this that tells you where your donation was spent, by whom, for what, how much, completely transparent. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit the stage. I'm going to itly play a video. My aim was to inspire people a little bit about blockchain, what it can do, and to give you a real example. So I'm going to play an explainer video. I think I've just got about time. It'll take about 1 minute 20. to show you the solution we've built. And if you want to whip out your phones and go to tracedonate.com at the very end, you can see an example of a production-ready version of scalable blockchain technology being built here today in Dublin by Aid Tech and scaling rapidly across the world. So I'm going to exit stage left, play the video. Thank you for your attention. Hope you learned something, and come catch me after. So thank you very much.
The world is full of people who want to make a difference. But the reality is, there needs to be trust and transparency in the process. That's where Trace Donate comes in. It's an app that connects organizations with donors and beneficiaries. Organizations can create and manage branded offerings. Donors can give transparently, and beneficiaries can receive and spend quickly and easily. Trace Donate provides end-to-end transparency to the process, empowering donors to track their donations by knowing how they are managed and delivered. This is all possible thanks to the integration of digital identity with Aid Tech's blockchain technology. Blockchain is a distributed ledger containing permanent records of all transactions that have ever occurred. Trace Donate allows donors to give funds to individuals, groups, and/or appeals that are created and managed by governments, NGOs, and charities. Funds are fully traceable, keeping donors informed via notifications at every step of the way. Trace Donate allows organizations to manage individual or group of beneficiaries and appeals. Organizations can create branded offerings and specific digital assets, such as groceries, utilities, food and emergency supplies for recipients to spend. Not only can you tell where your donation was spent, but also for what and how much. Trace Donate is powered by the Aid Tech Transparency Engine, the software used to power the transparent delivery of digital entitlements, such as aid and healthcare, welfare, remittance, and donations. If you want to make an impact with your donation and increase trust and transparency for all those involved in the process, donate now at tracedonate.com.